Welcome back to Final Fantasy XIV. We are back into Leola to this time start our tank Rolequest, which begins here with Loazenique. The Naval beckons. Oh, hello. Judging by your attire, you must be a traveler from across the seas, and I suppose Brook Evo has enlisted you to our aid? That you are guided here safely must be work of a brave Narwhal, who remains watchful even in this dire time. We are ever grateful for its vigilance. My name is Loazenique, and I hail from the northern reach of Jacques Tural, where even our breath freezes when caught in the chilling winds. Our people revere a Tural Vidral of a Narwhal, whose essence rests in the cradle of a sleepless, almost sacred treasure. Through fathomless depths it swam without rest, protecting its home from any who would do it harm. Legends tell that the Narwhal could place the burden of its fatigue upon another, and thus was able to maintain its vigil night and day. So too can any who possess the cradle lull a person, willing or no, into a deep slumber, all while avoiding the need for sleep themselves. Needless to say, such power could cause untold harm in the wrong hands. Was what the greatest warrior of our village, Tentoawa, tasked with crossing the ocean and returning that which is most sacred to us. I'd have joined him, but I feared I would only be a burden, so I remained here, that I might find someone to send to his aid. Tentoawa has ever rushed bravely and blindly into the thick of things, leaving me behind to watch and worry. But if there's anything I can do to help him, even a little, then I must. Brook Evo has done well to send you to me. I can tell you are just too common to temper his more reckless tendencies and keep him safe during his quest. As luck would have it, a letter from Tentoawa arrived shortly before you did. It seems he discovered that a thief made their way to a place called Ishgard. While I don't doubt his prowess, even Tentoawa would be rendered helpless before the Narwhal's lullaby. Please, could you follow him to Ishgard and find him before he does anything rash? Ishgard is like a second home to me. Thank you, Desiree. I knew the Narwhal would guide a brave protector to our side. Tentoawa sails to an unfamiliar place, but despite his hasty nature, he doubtless spent time gathering information about his new surroundings before planning his next step. If Ishgard has a place like this one, where people gather to drink and talk, he might go there first. Ask for a swordsman with blue hair and attire like mine. I'm sure it won't be long until you find him. So, the Forgotten Knight. No, brilliant. If it isn't Desi, what it'll be? Looking for someone. A lad from the Western Continent. Well, I can't be going around gossiping about the comings and goings of my customers, nor can I. That's a quick way to an empty tavern. But I suppose, since you are you, I can make an exception just this once. A lad like the one you described walked through my door not long ago. Was asking anyone whose ear he could bend about some stolen narwhal or some such he was after. Usually buy someone a drink before interrogating him, but not him. Nobody knew what he was going on about, but he was determined. Asked where else in Ishgard people might gather to flap their lips. So I told him to head to the Jeweled Crozier. If we leave now, I reckon he'll still be there. You know him when you see him, trust me. Bunch of useless by the Navaton. You'd think manners keep people warm for how desperately these people cling to them. And here I'm trying to rid their city of a thief. Yes, it seems you know me, but I don't think I've ever seen you before. I remember. Your friend asked me to help you. Lord Zenikwe has sent you. Even across oceans you can sense when I'm in trouble. Well, I won't deny a helping hand, especially one with her blessing. I'm having no luck getting information from these people. Seems there are unwritten rules regarding favors that no one's bothered to tell me. Don't worry. I know a thief traveled here, but that's where the tale runs cold. I thought it'd only be a matter of time until they used the cradle to commit some misdeeds or another. It seems nothing is amiss within or without Ishgard's walls. If only a description to go on, although it availed me nothing so far. A woman of a race known this land as Ellison. She has striking red hair and eyes the color of rust. A scar dominated her forehead and a mole rests upon her lip. She came to my village posing as a scholar with an interest in the cradle. Although she gave us a name, I know now it was a lie, just like everything else that spewed from her mouth. The bounty of meat, vegetables and food she offered was worth its weight in gold to us. After the cold snap we suffered last year, we couldn't afford to turn her away. But looking back, I realized how brazen her deception was. Although she wore the robes of a scholar, she moved with the poise of a predator. I marked her as a fearsome warrior the moment I laid eyes upon her. Of course, she wouldn't have been able to travel so far north on her own if she was unseasoned. So I thought nothing of it at the time. It was my first misstep of many. That's all I know. It's not much, but if you see even the smallest scrap of a clue in there, it would be a damn sight better than what I currently have. A skilled sword would be known among the knights of a congregation. Knights, was it? I suppose what you call these deadly-looking fellows clad in steel? Yes, you may be onto something there, but where would we find one willing to speak? At the barracks, near the tavern. I know the way. I'll meet you there. Alright. From about. Well, Mr. Klingor, what brings you to the congregation? A question. This passage of the Unbound is not a name that I've heard before, but if one of their number has brought an artifact of great power to Ishgard, you would be ill-advised to suffer their presence. We shall act on this information at once. If there's aught that would threaten the peace, then it's our duty to root it out. Consider the Knights of the Congregation at your disposal. Thank you for hearing us out, truly. Now, does anything about the description we shared ring a bell? An Ellison woman with red hair and eyes the color of rust. Wait, you said she bore a scar on her forehead, yes? And a mole? No, it couldn't be. You know who she is? Well, such information is usually privy only to those within our order. Pray understand my hesitation. What, weren't you listening to anything we told you? She's too dangerous to be left alone. This isn't the time for secrecy. I know I'm a stranger in your city, but I can't stand by while innocent lives might be at risk. If you can't trust Tentoawa, then trust me. You're right, of course. If a hero and if a Dragon Song war is not worthy of our trust, then who is? Very well. Master Tentoawa, pray accept my apologies. Although you may not be Ishgardian, your desire to keep its people safe is plain to see. We shall place our trust in you, as Miss Klingor has. I'm glad we can see eye to eye. Now then, what do you know of this thief? Your description called back some old memories. Memories of a knight called Neofin. Merely recalling her story makes me ill at ease, for the mark she left upon our honorable order was black as pitch. None know her whereabouts since she was expelled from the congregation. I had thought living with the shame of her deeds would be punishment enough, but if she now consorts with villains that threaten the very foundation of order, then 'tis clear we can suffer her freedom no longer. I shall inform my superiors of this development and suggest that the congregation does all in its power to track down Leofin and place her in custody. If you learn aught of value, I promise to share it with you at once. Really? That's more than you could have asked. I suppose we ought to consider what to do in the meantime. Can you join me over there, this way? So we have a name, Leofin, a former knight of Ishgard. That means she knows how to hide herself in this city well. Grasping about its straws won't get us anywhere. My own unfamiliarity does little to help our chances. We may have no choice but to wait until the knights discover a lead. Nevertheless, I intend to spend every waking moment learning more about the city and its workings. As for you, I only ask that you be ready to move at a moment's notice. Until then, be well. Sleepless in Ishgard. There you are, Desiree. I've been walking Ishgard streets whenever I've been able, and have taken to searching for any sleeping people. You see, the land I'm from isn't much warmer than this, and people know not to tempt fate by dozing off in the open air. Even those blind with drink manage to find their way home somehow. I figure the only force powerful enough to overcome that instinct of self-preservation would be the cradle, so if we find a sleeper exposed to the elements, we may very well discover Leofin nearby. Can't imagine she brought it all this way just to remain idle. It's a tedious prospect, but we need to scour every back alley and shadowy walkway before anyone catches something much worse than a cold. Mr. Klingor, Master Tentoawa, I bring good tidings. The Temple Knights wasted no time in distributing handbills across Ishgard containing Leofin's description. These efforts have already borne fruit. We but recently received a report of someone matching her features being sighted. Really? Where? She was sighted near Camp Dragonhead by a patrolling sentry. He described a woman with red hair and a distinct scar on her forehead. The outpost can be reached by passing through the Gates of Judgment and heading east. Once there, speak with Sir Huguenot for the full report. I know she'd show herself. Let's hurry, Desiree. Good work, man. I was informed you were on your way. This is concerning the report by one of our sentries, yes? He said that a woman matching the description in the handbill sent by the congregation, she was heading south along the footpath. But that is all we know. Not a lot? Yes, this is Huguenot. What? Hold on. I should send 8 at once. What happened? A shipment of supplies was waylaid by a monstrous beast. A contingent of Temple Knights should have been protecting it, but something is amiss. We need our help. We would be in your debt. The shipment was attacked on the road west of the observatorium. I shall muster more knights. Please, go find my men before any lives are lost. It should be close, right? I search the other side of the river. That's where you search further down the road, and keep your weapon at the ready. You saved us. We were almost... More battles. You won't be feasting today! Not a moment too soon. The white eye watches eternal, and eternal is with sleep it bestows. We were too late. No, we're not. Just look, we're asleep is all. Good. Good. Our trusty chocobo suddenly became unsure of her feet and awakened toppled onto the side of a road. There was nothing for it but to fix her damage on the spot. Our temple knights went to secure the area, but before I knew it, each and every one of them had fallen asleep where we were standing. When the beast attacked, it was just me before these snarling fangs. Time to wake up. Sleepy any longer, the cold will have you. What happened? We fell asleep, but we were patrolling. You must be mistaken. A temple knight would never shirk his duty so. Are you calling me a liar? I saw you fall over on your ass with my own eyes. If not for Sir Eugene's quick response and the bravery of his warriors, we all would have been food for vultures by now. The congregation will hear of this dereliction of duty, you can be sure. Now hold on a moment. They aren't the ones to blame. A sacred relic for my people was stolen and... Now it's not the time. Sorry, forget I said anything. Whatever dizziness overtook the chocobo seems to have passed, so I resume my journey once the carriage is repaired. Assuming my guards are quite refreshed, I believe we can make it on our own. Please, return to Camp Dragonhead and warm yourselves. It's no coincidence that the giant birds and the two guards took leave of their senses around the same time. This is the work of a cradle. But even if Leofin was here, she is no longer. Let's return to the city and consider our next steps. You said that knights from Camp Dragonhead down the way, yes? And I believe we shall have ample protection for the remainder of our journey. Leofin may have escaped us, but the witness report has given us a clue to follow. Thank Benawa for guiding us swiftly to the knights. We have received report of the incident near Camp Dragonhead. Two of our own sleeping on duty? By the Fury! Had you reached them even a moment later, this day would have been much darker. Although it pains me to say, those two shall be punished as befits the magnitude of their negligence. If I may, I don't believe the blame rests entirely on their shoulders. The cradle of the sleepers was used against them, I'm certain. Ah yes, you said it possessed the power to lull others into a deep sleep. I admit that would explain these exceptional circumstances. Regardless, we were still bested by the enemy, and the charge was almost killed as a result. Punishment is the only recourse. I see. A harsh stance maybe, but I can respect that you don't treat your duty lightly. Well, if you learn anything else of Neofin's plots, Please, let us know at once. Even though we didn't find her, I'm glad we were able to save our soldiers. Thank you for coming to us. Nate, so Temple Knights who owe you thanks. We shall continue our search, and rest assured, you shall be the first to know of any developments. There's more I would tell you about the cradle. Things I should have told you sooner. Join me over there, and I do my best to fix that mistake. Now you've seen with your own eyes what I've only been able to describe. The narwhal's lullaby can put even hardened warriors into a restful slumber. They may as well be defenseless as a newborn babe, but even with such power, my people have never used it to attack our enemies. Its sole purpose has always been to keep a single person awake, an eternal guardian who would never sleep, never rest. The White Eye. Me. For 10 years I've been awake, training day and night to gain the strength I have now. The strength to shield my people. Of course, another must receive the weariness I cast aside. The Shut-Eye. You've met her, in fact. Loazenique. As I've been awake these 10 years, she spent the better part of her days in a deep slumber. The brief periods of wakefulness are spent exercising and eating, so her body doesn't waste away. And so we've barely spoken, despite how much I depend on her. When we were young, we'd spend our days exploring the mountain paths. But that time has long passed. Telling you all this now, I realize how very little of my life has been dedicated to my own pursuits. Loazenique and I both have devoted ourselves entirely to the protection of our village. How did Leofin steal the artifact from such an accomplished warrior? Well, about that. No, I have no excuse. It's my fault it was stolen, and I bear that burden. The protector must take responsibility for his charges. But we don't have a luxury to dwell on regrets. I see now that although my people never used the cradle for ill, wicked hearts can twist anything towards evil. And that's something I can't tolerate. The very thought that this might happen again makes a bile churn in my gullet. We must bring Leofin's schemes to an end. Okay. Between sleep and death. Ah, just the person I wanted to see. I'd like to ask your advice on a certain matter, if you don't mind. It's been a while since my last letter to Loazenique. I wanted to wait until I discovered something worth sharing to write her, but we're still completely in the dark. I don't want her to worry, but I don't know what to tell her. Tell her you're in good spirits, that will suffice. You might be right. Silence made her think that something terrible has happened. Alright, I'll start right away. I may not have much time left. Oh, don't misunderstand, it's nothing so great as that. It's just, the last time I used the cradle was just before it was stolen. Luckily, I'm still as alert as I've ever been, but it won't be long until I must dream like any other. That will give Leofin free rein while I'm helpless in bed. There's no quarry more dangerous than one who doesn't sleep. We have to see this through before that happens. Mr. Klingor, Master Tentoawa, we've received reports that several groups of Temple Knights have fallen afoul of what can only be your stolen artifact. Several? Let me guess. They were all guarding someone else? You would be correct. It's the duty of a knight to protect those who cannot protect themselves. If we fail at even the most basic function, then our honor means nothing. As if the incident near Camp Dragonhead was not shameful enough, the knights in these most recent attacks were left in quite compromising positions. Yet the weight of the embarrassment is a trifle compared to the guilt we would bear if any innocent came to harm. The Fury was merciful in that respect, but we would rather not see these incidents repeat. Still, while the Temple Knights must work to repair their reputation in the days ahead, 'tis a far cry from bringing Ishgard crumbling to its knees. To be told, the methods of his passage of the Unbound leave me mystified. But Leofin was cunning, if nothing else. Till we can discern her true motivations, we have little recourse but to wait until she makes a mistake. Perhaps she gets a jolly seeing people humiliated? Many among the knights have suggested the same. Leofin may be part of this esoteric order, but she has ever been one to put her own interests first and foremost. The cradle is a tool of peace, yet Leofin uses it for childish pranks? She makes a mockery of its sacred power. We have to get it out of her clutches. And to do that, we have to start asking the right questions. This new information makes me wonder. Why has she focused her attention on the Temple Knights? I've pondered the same. Posted at Camp Dragonhead are knights from many houses of repute, including House Fortom's. Being a former Temple Knight herself, Leofin doubtless knows their habits and training. Perhaps it makes it easier for her to exploit their weaknesses? When we follow the knights, we may pick up a trail. It's not ideal, but it's best we have to go on. Well, a large contingent of knights has but recently dispatched to Corvus. You remember Gorgania Milt, yes? It has lain abandoned ever since the heretics were driven from it. Yet there's ever the risk that unsavory elements might infest it once again. Thus have the Temple Knights planned joint patrols of its premises with other contingents. If you speak with Sir Redwald at Falcon's Nest, I'm certain he would be glad to have you along. Okay. Is that Mistress Klingor I see? Of course, you are ever welcome in Falcon's Nest. Yet I believe I do not know your companion here. Indeed, whispers of a Temple Knight's humiliations have reached us even here. Falling asleep while on duty, I did not believe the stories. But it seems there was truth in them after all. They fell asleep too, but it wasn't their fault. We suspected her victim to an enemy wielding a powerful artifact. Now the rumors failed to mention anything like that. We can lull even trained warriors to sleep, and we must treat it as a serious threat. Nevertheless, if one knight falls, another is always ready to take their place. So long as the artifact cannot put an entire regiment under its spell, I believe we are well positioned to combat it. Interesting. The idea of your allies falling in battle doesn't seem to disturb you at all. The ally from a single warrior is responsible for the safety of his entire village. Make no mistake, we do not doubt our allies' mettle. We mourn every loss, yet each man and woman here knows that if they must quit the battle, another sword just as fierce will take their place. To know that an ally is at your back, it would allow you to fight with abandon. Now, you believe this Neofin might take interest in our activities as Gorgani Mills, yes? A party has recently left, accompanied by a group of temple knights. If your suspicions are correct, then they are at risk. I would ask that you follow in their tracks and ensure they have not fallen victim to foul play. The mills can be found to the north, just across the Black Iron Bridge. The party should be arriving there soon, conditions permitting. We have to reach them before Leofine does. I can only hope that all is well, but having you there would do much to set my heart at ease. Too late, they are fast asleep. But Redwald gave the impression there were more. These knights must have been the lookouts. You should awaken them, but keep your eyes peeled for Leofine. I rouse these ones. That's where you search that building yonder. Who the hell are you? How do you get past the guards? That's another player's struggle. It's you. Thank the few you arrived when you did. Those fucks struck when our backs were turned. I assumed the temple knights were protecting the entrance, so I wasn't as cautious as I should have been. Were they killed? Magic asleep? Sleeping? I heard the stories, of course, but didn't think they were true. Whoever's behind this, I'm sure they didn't count on you showing up. For now, we shall tend to our wounds and then finish our inspection here. Mrs. Klinger, I ask that you join the knights outside and wait until we're finished. Ah, as I thought. Just when I was becoming bored, I sighted a familiar face among these slumbering knights. I simply had to come and make sure it was you. You finally found the courage to show yourself. Hand over the cradle now and I won't kill you. What did they call you again? The White Eye? You must have had quite the journey to come this far. Be careful, Desiree. This is our quarry. The thief who stole the cradle of a sleepless. This is Leofine. But as your ally, their arms hardly look fit to hold a sword. Who's to say they do not seek your artifact for themselves? It matters not, I suppose. Before you both throw your lives away, I suggest you think for a moment. Is the cause you fight for worth the sacrifice? So few of us know true freedom. If there's aught you would grasp with your own hands, do so with every wither and your eyes shut for the last time. The codes and rules that would bind man are mere illusions. Open your eyes. Truly open them, and you shall see a path all your own. Only a fool would waste her life in the struggle of another. Quit spouting nonsense. Nonsense. Perhaps. I'm here because of another, after all. A Biai who came to me at the height of my debauchery and welcomed me into her devious brotherhood. She guided me to great power, yes, and now I lead others upon the unbound path. Yet truth be told, I have little interest in seeing where it ends. To tear down the world's nations, Ishgard among them, and usher the world into, well, what does it matter? Yet I do so derive great pleasure from shaming the Temple Knights, and seeing the snickers and jeers deflate their pompous stride as they walk down the streets. If this artifact can hasten their fall from grace, I believe I should keep it. I know the path I walk, the one that leads to your downfall. And I won't abandon it. I'll take the cradle back. And then I'll... Oh dear, you seem to have lost your train of thought. I know you cannot hear me, but if you want your artifact back, I might suggest stealing it from me while I'm asleep. But considering the burden I've just passed to you, that opportunity may not come for some time yet. Why, I feel absolutely transcendent to think the shackles of fatigue weighed so heavily. Alas, it appears the artifact needs its own repose of sorts. No matter, I've learned more than enough to take my next step. See to it that this lot is disposed of. 'Tis the least you can do for the freedom I've given you. Tries he might to rouse Tentoawa, he seems completely detached from the waking world. It looks like you saved us twice today, thank you. But what of him? Fast asleep, just as we were. Could this be what Sir Firmament warned us in his report? Pretty much. I see. Then those stories are more than just wicked rumors. I suppose there is some small comfort in the fact that our enemy tipped their hand without causing loss of life. By the drowsiness made my eyes heavy, my ears could not mistake Leofin's arrogant voice. If she would not scruple to attack former comrades in arms when she has fallen farther than I dared imagine. Yet we bear the blame for allowing it to get the upper hand, and in so doing, put innocent lives in danger. Another black mark on our order. It was only thanks to you and your companions' efforts that the snow was not stained red this day. At the very least, allow us to carry him to the congregation. Our work here is done, so we shall accompany them as far as Falcon's Nest. As they pray return to Ishgard and look after your friend. Full glad am I to see you well, Mistress Klingor. I understand you come fresh from an encounter with none other than Leofin. Master Tentoawa now rests on the second floor. We shall stand vigil by his side every moment as he opens his eyes again. You should not have long to wait, but if you wish to check on him, please do so at your leisure. There's another matter to discuss. Just before your departure to Gorganya Mills, it seems there was another incident. A group of criminals were released from their cells, their guards found in deep sleep. Doubtless Neofin was behind this. And doubtless were ruffians who clashed with the self-same criminals. Leofin is gathering those who bear a grudge against the Temple Knights to her side, and using this animosity to her advantage. We now know for certain that Leofin is the mastermind of these attacks, and that her aim is to chip away at the very foundation of the Temple Knights, our honor. When I shared these revelations with my superiors, it was decided that none would speak publicly of the artifact and its powers. Why not? The passage of the Unbound seeks to overthrow the nations of the world. One obvious method to achieve this goal would be to stoke the flames of unrest among the common folk, thus sinking Ishgard into a mire of chaos and distrust, not unlike the blasphemies of her final days. So long as these failures are placed squarely on the shoulders of the Temple Knights, we can avoid fomenting a more abiding mistrust in the nation's very core. For Ishgard's peace, I would gladly suffer any disgrace. The question remains as to whether we can apprehend Leofin before she tears our reputation to tatters. But Master Tentoawa slumbers, it falls to us to search for clues that might point toward her whereabouts. Okay, so upper floor, yeah? Okay. Can't talk to him, can't even attempt to talk to him. But that shall be the end of this episode, and we continue this next time. Until then, I'm Mace, and don't get lost.